just type in police, right, on Google, or help is available. I don't actually think that is the case, So, when I've been doing all my studying for privileges, the e-petitions and election law, right, I've ended up doing some side projects and putting everything together now. I've actually got criminal cases, right, serious ones against the government and all kinds of things. And it's actually, I've had it checked, it's to a good standard, right? And the thing is, I've had this problem in the past. When all this campaign of mine started, right, it was about illegal road signage, right? And then the police weren't interested, or the council. So that's what started the whole concern. And what the police were saying back then is, I remember going into the police station and they're like, oh, you go see the ombudsman or whatever. It's very hard to get a case going with the ombudsman. They won't take it on unless you've got all the correspondence and you've exhausted it. And if you're not well, or if you're not organised, and, not all people are, a lot of people who've got problems might not have all the correspondence or be organised. And I think it's actually quite a barrier. And, the men who have all the government is meant to, Ed Davies style beliefs like reasonable adjustments and all this. In theory, the government has been talking about reasonable adjustments, but in practice, I've been mentioning reasonable adjustments recently, like when I'm not being well, and a lot of their places now don't seem to care about it. And I think it's that social media effect, that kind of like administrative moderator sort of government policy thing, that actually they started off with this ideal for things like reasonable adjustments, but none of them seem right bothered about it anymore, right? But that's just one thing. Now, the police, I have done a lot of investigative work over the last 10 years, and I've never got the ombudsman to start or look into anything. And when I had an MP who was reasonably competent, right, they locked down the country, so I was booked in to meet him. And now our MP, he's not that fantastic, to be honest, really, when it comes to his office and organising. I uploaded an ombudsman form. All he had to do was sign it. And because the website's figured up a certain way, if you don't download it at the exact time when you finish, you can't download it. I'm sure they set up that way on purpose. And it's just been terrible. All he's had to do is sign a complaint, right? And he's been so ages and awkward about it. And I still don't think anything's happened about it. Just like before, I don't think it's that easy to get an ombudsman complaint started. To be honest, right, this is my honest opinion. I think I could do, I think my investigation is already done. At the point that I hand it in, I've already got all the evidence, but they don't really want evidence. The ombudsman don't want evidence of wrongdoing. They only really want evidence that you tried to get something done, right? Because they think that the wrongdoing is going to be in your correspondence, right? But if you've investigated a department of the government and you've got evidence of corruption and wrongdoing in their operations, that's not necessarily evidence that backwards and forwards between that place, right? You could go sit filming police in malpractice and then send it to the ombudsman, and that's really strong evidence that government organisation is corrupt. But that's no good, because they won't accept it. Why? Because they want to see you run to the police and complain to the police. So, to put it simply, right, the ombudsman don't want you to walk up to them with a case, right, of absolute excellence and put it on the table and say, look, I've investigated the police, they're corrupt, will you act on it? They can't take it because you don't have a letter to the police and a correspondence with the police, and the police have, done something wrong to you or not dealt with your complaint properly. That's the point with the police. They're not dealing with people's complaints properly, and because it's only you, so the ombudsman isn't there for you to hand investigations about corrupt departments in. It's not there for you to hand in evidence of corrupt departments. It's there to only accept a government department doing some wrongdoing against you directly, which is utterly useless if the police aren't investigating things and they're seriously corrupt and sinister, and you're an amazing investigator and you even investigate the police or another authority. They can't take it. And this is what I've realised. The ombudsman actually are not fit for purpose. And the whole point is meant to be for things that the government departments have done wrong, right? As opposed to Daniel Greenberg, things that MPs have done wrong. And I don't even think Daniel Greenberg's that competent. I've submitted some really outstanding complaints to Greenberg, and he doesn't seem to have done anything yet. As soon as Rupert Lowe's running around Parliament, bad-mouthing to staff, then they jump on him, and he's like, oh, it's opaque, right, or whatever. Well, it's not just opaque to MPs, it's opaque to us. The whole point of the petition to the House of Commons of grievance was that you set all of the grievance in writing. There wasn't no you've got to have this correspondence evidence, we've got to see this or that. You submitted it into the committee. It was just like submitting it to a court, and they have a committee to investigate it, and they're the ones who call for the evidence and so forth. They will call for the evidence of your correspondence. They will summon it, command it, right? You don't have to give it to them. They will call for it. So I think that the current model is just absolutely ridiculous. I don't think the Ombudsman... Most people now, with modern technology and mobile phones and video recording, a lot of people... some people are going to be corrupt and lie and not tell the truth or try and fake evidence. I think you always do. In the police, there's a lot of corruption like that anyway, right? Because that's what the Ombudsman's there for anyway, if the police are corrupt, right? Well, supposedly just if it's through your correspondence with them or your case, but not like when I've said, if you want to be an investigator into them. But it's most people, I think these days, if it's not just they treated me badly, or, they didn't, answer the phone properly, or they didn't act on something, right? Those are extremely minor things. And I think the Ombudsman, when they're trying to correlate, which police officers on the front desk are not very, good generally to the public. We've got 5 or 6 people complaining in lower stuff that the police front desk person is not very good. That's a lot of evidence. We'll correlate it and act, right? Get that staff member changed. That's so petty that it's just ridiculous, right? We're talking about very, very serious things that very competent and capable citizens can do and save money and do. You've done the investigation work, really. I think that most moderately competent people who are quite intelligent want somewhere where they can just hand in a case and it effectively be a little bit like the Crown Prosecution Service, right? Where you give them the evidence and you say, it doesn't matter whether it's against you or not, right? It's just a case, right? And you want them, because you want them to be prosecuted. Most people, aren't trained as a barrister or to do a prosecution, right? But a lot of people are quite good at finding evidence and facts and things like that. And then the Ombudsman to sort of be like the CPS, but, directing command to further evidence, or, ask the police what's going on, right? That's what most people want. Because then you can actually get actions and prosecutions and things done like that, or even, judicial reviews and stuff like that, right? If you've got a case and there is evidence, so what if there's no correspondence between you and the police or not? Surely you can get a judicial review out of it of the thing that your evidence is of doing wrong, right? Why does there have to be any correspondence between you and the police if you just film the police doing things wrong all day to people, right? And that's why I think the Ombudsman is ridiculous. Now, and at the moment, I think that the police are I know that some people are persistent and maybe more capable than me and do get action against the police from the Ombudsman. Obviously, that they exist and they're operating, because they're working, they've got cases, but there's 60 million people in England, right? Or whatever, or more now, right? I think the police, professional standards almost never do anything, right? It's just and then even Graham Moore was saying that the independent police investigation place is mainly made up of ex-police officers. So they're literally, I think they're invincible, and they're pretty much invincible at the moment. That they've got nothing to fear except within their own force, their own hierarchy of command. Their own inner command lines, and I think that's problematic because I don't think the Ombudsman really is designed to get serious matters of national corruption sorted out. It's there just to solve a problem with an individual on sort of like a service level, direct point of entry service level approach. And that, I don't think that that's what most people actually want, when they think of the ombudsman. So I don't think anything will get done about the police unless you take it to Parliament or however. That was the powerful thing about the petition, because firstly you called to the public for help. You got other citizens to help you to sign. You had powers, at least protection powers. You could put together evidence and put a grievance in, and then the government was meant to call for evidence if you had honest MPs. That's how it's meant to work. And that's why I've always favoured the right to petition and petitioning, because that is your way to put a case to the government with a grievance. So I'm really not happy about how the police are operating at the moment. I went in there and they really, and I've actually got some proper good crime reports. I've had them checked by the computer AI, all for the legal facts to be correct, and it's actually qualified as really strong good evidence, right? And the police are just like, if it's not kind of like crude street level sort of crime, they tend to not be interested or not able to understand. And when it comes to election law now, the election law investigation that I've done is probably the most important one, because that's actually how people get elected into Parliament and become MPs through getting elected in elections, right? And it's like the online enforcement is literally next to nothing. There's no online enforcement at all, and it was meant to be up to the Electoral Commission. And I've had all the legislation checked. I've actually got a really extensive investigation and built up a really huge, big, widespread case covering all aspects of it. And it's actually definitely concluded that there is no online enforcement when there should be. There's a legal framework for it, and the government are working on a new act now, a new Elections Act, but it's calculated that they don't actually need that new act. It's just that they're not using the existing one, right? So hopefully I might be able to get something done about it.